I hope you had a good week.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I remember last week we started a conversation on the 120-day social contract of the National Democratic Congress, because there are many more discussions on it this week from very many perspectives. But thank you once again, and nice to see you. But first, I'd like to start with this whole issue. I don't know if you just listened to the discussion we're having, right?
Yes.
The matter of what happens to these people who come into the country. Their country of origin unknown. They come in on our streets. They eventually live on our streets. They litter the streets. You now have to clean it up, and then you see them constantly. The main activity engaging is begging. I don't know. First, Dr. Salifu, what do you feel should be the approach to this?
I think it's a big menace. I mean, when you drive on our streets, you see them trying to get to you, so chaotic. And also, you can see the exposure to them, the risk involved.
Okay.
When I see them, I'm always imagining my children running that way and getting exposed to all kinds of dangers.
Okay.
So I think what they should do is that take them off the streets. There are a lot of homes that really can receive them. There are a lot of NGOs involved in street children, and they should hand them to them and prohibit just anybody begging on our streets.
Okay.
We should have the social, network to ensure that when people find themselves on streets, we are able to take them to where they belong and hold their parents accountable. Because if you don't do that, you have little children, you can't prosecute them. We need to find out who are the parents of or guardians of these children and make sure that we hold them to accountable, take care of your children. And if we do that, it cleans the street, it takes away the danger and potential hazards that can happen. So I think government can easily enforce this. Our police should be doing that. One thing we haven't done is that our law enforcement is always centered on criminals.
Okay.
But law enforcement should also have a division that really take care of these social issues. So they can find out where to send these children, how to help them so that they can stay off the streets and get some education.
Dr. AYANABA.
Thank you very much, Senna, and good morning.
Good morning.
I think that as a country, there's really a lot of indiscipline, across. We shouldn't look at it merely from the fact that, okay, these people have come into our communities or into our country. We should look at it differently. It starts with us.
Okay.
Before these people probably came, you look at our streets, places that are supposed to be clear of pedestrians, traders, hawkers, and all that. And you find the places littered, people just take over the streets, people take over where they are not supposed to be, right? So anybody seeing this would find it attractive or will find, there's no problem if I also come and sit there, or if I also come and start begging on the streets and so on and so forth. So I think that the law enforcement agencies, together with the assemblies and all that, must ensure discipline on places where we are not supposed to have people loitering about in the first place. Because if we keep people clear of all those places, for instance, you would not have these people come and take advantage. They have seen that, there are people, there are hawkers there, people are there selling. They are not supposed to be there, and it's because of the indiscipline, the way we have not taken things seriously. There are designated places for business, for trading and all that. Let's move people to those places to get to engage themselves in all manner of trading that they are supposed to engage in, and leave the streets and the places that they are not supposed to be there clear. you know, and that for me is the way we should look at it. But of course, the problem is that these people have found themselves, they found Ghana a very attractive place, and that they can come and do that. It leads to one of the points that the previous commentator was talking about. Could be that some people are taking advantage of these children. They should be in school, and they find themselves loitering about the streets, and all they're doing is begging, you know, or asking for alms. And I think we need to be a bit more serious on this, and it shouldn't be a matter for a particular government, you know. It should be enforced regardless of the government in power. So it should be something we see as a societal nuisance that you should not allow people there. We should at least guard it. You know, in those many years ago, we used to have this town council. I mean, keeping the streets clear, ensuring sanitation and all that. We don't have to allow people to take over the streets and get engaged in all manner of businesses and trading out there.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, because when I was going through the immigration services statement, they talk about them being undocumented. And I was wondering if there's anywhere in the world, both of you have lived abroad, where somebody who is undocumented will be this bold to do these things publicly, exposing themselves to law enforcement. But I think your point is that it seems we have given them that signal that it is allowed in this country. You can really do it and get out with it.
You know, even stray dogs. When you see a dog, it doesn't have a passport, but it's on the street and it's a nuisance. You have to find, you should have system that really take care of this. Sometimes you drive in US in my neighborhood, a lot of antelopes. They kill one, couple of minutes, someone is going to take the carcass out of the street. We must have systems to deal with that. And then once we consider it a menace, it's a humanitarian issue. We should prepare for that. Someone is on the street, you don't ask of where they are from, whatever. You have to give them shelter. They lack shelter, you give them. They lack education, ask yourself, how can you help them? And it should be, you know, small part of our budget that can do this. So it shouldn't be too difficult to do.
But then there's the bigger issue you've raised about the management of our spaces, how we organize as a country. For example, like you said, it shouldn't depend on the government. When the NDC was in government, that was 2013 to 2016, 2017. You realize that there was an attempt to clean up the central business districts. They leave government, and we are back to the status quo, the old way. Now they are back, and people are putting pressure on them to do what they were doing again. And you were saying it should be done no matter who is in power. What do you think the problem is? Is it that we politicize it too much and reduce it to that level of politics? Or what is the problem, really, that we cannot enforce these things, whether it's MPP or NDC?
I think the biggest problem in Ghana is the fact that we do not allow systems, structures to function regardless of the of politics. And the second thing is that we have overly politicized some of these things.
Okay.
So one, if we allow the structures to work, civil society, or the councils and the municipal district and all the councils are supposed to take charge of ensuring these things are properly done. Okay. But are they actually doing these things? You know, it shouldn't be, okay, this particular policy is related to this government, and therefore they're taking credit for it. If we support it, then of course the credit goes to a particular party, you know. So while some people will try to do it, others will try to sabotage it, you know. We would not look at it as a societal good. We would look at it as, okay, yes, somebody is doing this, but some people say, oh yeah, if we support the idea, these guys will take the credit, and that is our major problem. If not that, and we look at things from a point of view that regardless of whoever is in government, let us ensure that we have a well-organized society, and that everybody must adhere to these standards, regardless of whoever you are or whichever party you belong to. I believe we would look when the NDC was in power, they were dredging the lagoon, the Odo River, trying to ensure that things were done. And when Kufuor came, they said, well, of course, there were criticisms at the time. Then MPP came to power. Akufo-Addo said, I'll make Accra the cleanest city.
Yeah.
Now, he's left it probably, where worse off than before or something. But these are things that we should not politicize. These are things that we should actually empower our civil society to take these things seriously and ensure that the right things are done. If not that, look, Sana, this country will continue to regress, because you go to other countries, and I mean, not outside, African countries. I said, this is a clean Rwanda, right? I mean, there's no way you compare Ghana to Rwanda. But they have disciplined themselves. Maybe somebody said, now all the national service, they should go for some military training, because that would instill a bit of discipline. But that's just what fraction of people is that in the society. But all I'm saying is there has to be discipline. Whatever measures we have to take to ensure we instill that level of discipline and to ensure there's order in our societies, we should do that.
Yeah. And I want to find out, first let me start with you, Dr. SALIFU. In the US, who are responsible for this kind of, like organizing the space? Is it the local councils, or is it central government?
Usually it's the local authorities.
Okay.
You see, they've run their government for over 200 years. And what they do is that anytime there's a problem, they just don't fix it as an emergency, issue. They try to prepare for whatever will happen in the future. So everything is so structured. Citizens are educated on. If I see street children, I know exactly where to call so they can come and take care of them. They can come and then they will know exactly who to find in terms of parent or guardian. So data is available. A lot of things are available to both local and central government. The federal government in the U.S. is only in charge of the military and post office. Everything else is private because they like efficiency. And if it is not, then it's at the local level. The local government is set up around people's lives. There's a Department of Health and Human Services. And that encapsulates almost all these issues that we're talking about, social issues, who is going to take care of this and that. And that is under the mayor. One of the things I advocated before we came to power was that we should run a flip government. It's like we are so mindful of the top. Ministers are advisors. And, for example, look at Damali issue. Tamale, it took the Minister of Health to go and fire the CEO of the hospital. What was the mayor doing? What was the regional minister doing? If the regional minister or the mayor is doing what they're doing, the minister in Accra doesn't need to travel to Tamale. And that will save us resources involved in the minister going with land cruisers to Tamale. So I was thinking that we should pay attention rather to who run the districts. The DCs must be people who can really run or who ran things before. Equivalent of the mayor, someone with a lot of knowledge can have a vision for the district, whatever, and fix things. And under them, they should run the police, they should run the social services, all services that are needed. and deliver them very well. But instead, we think that the best brain should be at the national level. And at the national level, you have the president. We have executive president. He has bevy of advisors. He has an advisor of this, advisor of that. And even the first lady is an advisor. So he has council of state to advise him. He can take the advice or reject it. So all these structures need to be put in place to make sure our local governance is effective enough to deliver services that we require. If I see that issue, I don't think of President Mahama being responsible for it.
Okay.
Or I think about my mayor. I think about the local authorities, what they are doing. My type is not flowing. In the US, if Donald Trump's type is not flowing, he focuses on the water company. And me as an ordinary person, I focus also on the local company. I blame the company, I don't blame the president. So if we don't strengthen our local government and make sure that we locate exactly where responsibilities are supposed to be, we can run effective government. When party comes to power, all the former ministers, where are they? Can we send them to the districts? Can we send them there? They have a lot of experience. They have a lot of reputations to protect. So when they go there, if there are problems, we hold them for it. And they will do a perfect job than someone who has never run anything because he's a member of our party. He was doing this and this and this and said he will kill himself to get Mahama elected. We put him there as DCE. And he sits there basically and receives visitors. So, ministers don't develop. It's these people who are supposed to do development. And we should pick our best and rather locate them there. When the district and all the areas are working, our ministers don't need to travel. Minister going to Tamale to inspect a building when he's not an engineer, what sense does that make? Why can't he just leave that to the local authorities? If he wants any data, any information, he can get it from them. I lived in the US for over 30 years. I don't know who the energy minister is. He doesn't come to New Jersey. We don't need him. The company that runs the energy sector is there. We don't need the national leader to tell us why we won't get electricity very soon. So it kind of made them to focus on big issues. And then the everyday issues are handled by local authorities. And until we organize our things that way, we'll continue to even make them very political. NDC is responsible for this, MPP is responsible for that. But if we localize it, we know exactly who to hold accountable. And they understand the local issues than a politician sitting in Accra.
And interesting. And Dr. John, and that's where the issue of forming a government comes in. Because at this point, many of them MMDCEs have been approved. Some are still going through the approval process to take over their positions. They are supposed to be the head of the local government. The last time we were having a discussion about efficient government, lean and efficient. What do you think this government needs to do? But first, before I even come there, I wanted to find out, do you see this chaos with our colonial masters? Do we, by any stretch of imagination, inherit it? Did we inherit it from the UK or something? Because you live in Scotland. Is this how they behave?
No, I think that is a bit different. It's just that people need to adhere to structures.
Okay. But have
rules.
we built them?
Well, that's a tricky one. We can attribute some aspect of our failure to our inability to properly look at our situation and adapt from our colonial masters instead of wholesale implementation of, this is what our colonial masters did, therefore it must be applicable, forgetting about certain nuances, cultural context and all that we fail to take into consideration. So I would say, yes, we can attribute some aspect of the chaos, but I think that we must be responsible enough to say we've got what it takes to restructure, think through, look at, consider all the factors that are peculiar to us as a people in organizing our local governance structures and ensuring that these will function effectively and provide the necessary services to our people. And if you look at countries across Africa who are doing well, I mean, not all though, because some of what we are facing here, you get to next door neighbor and you say, oh, we are better. But of course we should not rest on our laurels. I believe that we should benchmark very good practices from around Africa. We are one people in terms of cultural context, a bit more similar as opposed to benchmarking from the UK or benchmarking from the US and all that. They are developed, and of course it didn't take them one day to get to where they are. But we can also learn from you go to Rwanda and say, I remember some time back some of the ministers went to Rwanda. We can pick lessons from there. They've struggled, and if you look at their transition from the war situation to where they've gotten to in terms of putting their governance systems in place, they've done well. And we too could learn some aspects of our local governance systems from them. Yeah, so I wouldn't say let's blame entirely what the colonial masters. Look, it's been 60 plus years, all right? And if it's a man, you should be on retirement. And so you should not continue to blame your inability to organize your house or your home to somebody else. I mean, when you're going on retirement, you have all the time. If it was maybe 20 years after independence, we could still say, okay, the way they did it and we adopted it, it's not working for us. You go to 30 years, yes, 40, I mean, come on, 60 plus. I think we should actually take full responsibility for organizing our local governance systems. And to the point, we have overly politicized this. And that's what I'm saying. If we look at it from a humanitarian point of view, that the local governance structure is supposed to provide services for our communities, for us to live healthy lives in the communities and ensure order. It should be devoid of partisanship, of politics, so that whichever, and it shouldn't even take the election or the appointment of the DC or the MMC to be in place for things to function. Otherwise we lose the effect of the devolution of power. Yes, the person sits there, but there are policies in place when it comes to sanitation. There's somebody when it comes to discipline. There's and these things must be happening. There are heads, directors who are in charge of all those areas that are supposed to ensure that these things are happening, and that the MMDC or the DC is only a figurehead, to coordinate, and every 4 years we've got to change that, either through election or through appointment. If we look at it that way, then this is where we say we are not being efficient. We are being very wasteful as a people, because then all those people are just sitting there and probably, well, let's wait to see what the top man will tell us, And so if the top man comes, he's got his priorities. He's a political figure. Remember that, And we will not achieve much by depending overly on that particular way of doing things. I think we should look at the basic things being done, ensuring that the structures are functioning effectively at the local governance level. Yeah.
Well, if you just join us, we're just having a discussion. In fact, the discussion is supposed to focus on 180-day social contract, but this came up And you see, the most important thing is for me and for many years under Nekufu, the question I kept asking was, who was running the space when it came to the city and the way the city looked and the things that were happening? It was important. And for me, that no matter what he did, because of the poor management of the city, I would have, for example, said he should go.
Yeah.
Even though he is not directly responsible for the management of the city. So these are very important discussions. One of the discussions we're having this morning too has to do with, and I'm sure you heard that, the Electricity Company of Ghana. Yeah. The state of our electricity provision, the whole structure, that is there. Now, this morning, and I guess, Dr. SALIFU, you heard the spokesperson say the decision by government is that we come to a point where there's private sector participation in collection of revenue, at least, to see if there's a way through which we can increase revenue and pay a lot more. Because government spending $1.1 billion on fuel alone annually. That's significant, is it not?
You know, the problem we have is just structural. Systems don't work. And then when there's a problem, we focus too much on short-term solutions at the expense of creating systems to make sure the problems doesn't resurface.
Okay.
If you look at, I don't know of your house, but someone visit your house and they keep the lights on. They enter the bathroom and they come out, they leave the lights on. It's our culture. In the West, people pay a lot of attention to energy issues. So there's a certain culture that creates a lot of waste for government, and recovery is very low. So it doesn't make economic sense for government to continue to provide these kinds of services. But we can't do it in a radical way. So I think President Mahama is very measured. The government is trying to be very measured so that the negative effect doesn't occur to cause a lot of things in the economy. Once he come in and say, we are fully recovering this and keep the system, then we have to pay a lot. And those who pay are, to some extent, many, but not all, everybody pay for electricity because people have a way of evading the whole process. So I think private sector efficiency is critically needed. And going in to look at the recovery part is very important because energy is generated in this country at a very high cost. And African countries are competing for direct investment. If we don't fix our energy mess, there'll come a time investors will be shopping for where they can get cheap energy or organize reliable energy, and they'll go there and invest. And the only way to sustain our solutions to energy crisis is to bring in the private sector. The private sector, I don't want us to always look at the West coming in to invest. We can find local investors.
Okay.
We can try to find out what can we do locally to produce electricity for farmers in the village. I will always cite the U.S. In the U.S., the poor live in cities and the rich live in villages. When you go there, the lifestyle...
No, the poor live where?
Yeah, they live in the cities because they need jobs and all. But the affluent and the rich, they live in villages.
I see.
So
it's the other way around.
Yes. If we go to my neighborhood, for example, you can be there 3 months, you don't see anybody sweeping the street. And it's not dirty. Because the lifestyle dictates it. People are very careful what they do. People are able to organize a place. And when you don't clean, it means you don't spend on that.
Okay.
It cuts your expenditure.
Okay.
But when you go to the city, we have similar problem. People are very reckless and all that. But Ghana is the opposite. Go to most of the affluent neighborhood, and they also have illegal connections. So if it is private sector, they can go after people and begin to make everybody responsible. Once you use energy responsibly, it affects the government's budget because government will not spend much producing electricity and not recovering. So at the end of the day, we need serious restructuring. Even if the private sector comes in, we need to change a lot of things. Why not put all government buildings on solar by 2 years' time? Before I returned to Ghana, I'm just sitting in my house and some people show up and say, we are doing solar. So I thought they were going to take money and put all the panels. They said, no. We are going to put the panels in your house. We use your roof to generate electricity and sell it to you. It's a government program.
Oh.
Yeah. So they came in, put the electric panels on, the solar panels on it, looked at my bill, and they will generate electricity. If they generate electricity more than what I need, they will buy that part of it from me. So there's some economics to it.
Okay.
If your house is able to generate electricity more than you can use, it means that you have excess. So they sell it, they buy it,
Okay.
and then use it, sell it back to you. So at the end of the day, your electricity bill goes down.
Okay.
Can we do that? Yes. The billions we are quoting, I just read in the newspaper, Jinapor is saying we need about 1 billion today. This 1 billion, if we're not using it to solve this problem, can we use it in invest in solar? So every home gets this, generate electricity on their own, and then government gets to make some money from it in terms of taxes, and the private sector controls it. We can, because whatever we do, we can't rely on thermal. At some point, this will become anachronistic. US, they use nuclear power. We don't have the capacity to produce that right now. But they're using it and it's cheap. Countries that have gone that way will get a lot of investors coming because electricity is reliable. And these things goes to impact whether if I set up a small company, it can be there for long or it's going to collapse at some point because of high cost of production. So we should develop very huge visions and look beyond because this problem has existed for so long. After 68 years, we're still doing the same thing, things the same way. We use thermal. When we have crisis, we run around and but we don't recover. So at the end of the day, people are living on the sweat of others. The few who pay are the ones that are able to support the system to run, and some people get it free. So I think we need major reforms. Okay. We need to reinvent our country. When President Clinton was the first in several years to balance American budget, and you know what he did? When he came in, his vice president, he created a program for him, government reinvention. So they went after every waste. They came in with innovations. You see how we are prosecuting people? We say, oh, they stole money, right? We are going to prosecute them. It's good. We are vigilante. Government needs to be vigilante. But after that, how do we prevent the reoccurrence of that?
Yeah.
So government reinvention comes in. So equivalent of private sector reforms, we should have an organization that deals with it. This person was able to steal because this was what was wrong. So we prosecute him and don't just stop there. We go in and fix the problem. In the long run, it's going to make our systems sophisticated. And then life will be easier for us. But if we keep this system, trust me, we'll keep discussing it.
Interesting. And Dr. AYANABA, and that's the interesting part. Because you're just talking about, I think the first gas processing plant cost us $1 billion. We are spending $1.1 billion to buy for. Now, so sometimes when they mention the money, you realize that same amount can be used to fund long-term solution to the problem.
Exactly.
Is there a matter of efficiency here for you? Or is it a matter of, or what do you think the problem is?
Yeah, well, Sana, I cannot agree more with what my colleague, Dr. SALIFU, has just, his submission is on point regarding the way we need structural reforms in all aspects, including our energy sector. I do not think that only looking for private sector participation in collection is enough. That is just scratching the surface.
Okay.
we must go deeper. So even if you want to look at just private sector participation, why wouldn't private sector participation in both distribution and collection? In other countries, we have that. Okay, you have the independent power producers, they have power, and then there's some level of monopoly after that in terms of the distribution. Okay, and then it becomes a problem when it comes to collection.
Okay.
And we want to solve the problem. We should not look at, or it shouldn't be one-sided.
Okay.
Okay, so if you distribute, let's look for Mr. B, who can also what? Distribute.
Okay.
And then you will see the innovation between Mr. A and Mr. B in terms of both distribution and collection.
Open up the space.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, and to the point, it should not just be only, looking for foreign investors to be, or foreign companies to go into this. Let's open it up to local participation. You know, if we say private participation, priority should be local private participation. You know, and that should be the way to go if we want to look at being innovative in terms of both the collection and the distribution of it. And we can then look at, there are so many